Today's review is The Deer Hunter. This is the Academy Award winner for 1978, starring Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, Meryl Streep in one of her earliest roles, directed by Michael Cimino, who also won Best Director for the film. This is a great movie. Truly one of the best films from the 70s, and particularly on the subject of the Vietnam War, specifically the repercussions back home of the war. And, kind of to put it in a certain type of perspective, I mean, you got to think that this came out in 1978. This is 4 years after the actual Vietnam War ended. So that definitely, when you think of that perspective, it's like, whoa, they're really, speaking out about this film in cinematic form, quite soon. But this is definitely one that, because I think it was so recent, because it was still in the consciousness of the culture, I think that's kind of why it hits as hard as it does, and has the effect that it has. Because it doesn't really deal too much with actual combat. Like a war like that, it's kind of hard to glorify. You'd see a million, well, like 100 different, like, rousing WW2 pictures. Good old boys, fighting the Nazis, stuff like that. But the Vietnam War, I think it was something that had more of effect on, it was like a war at home as well as abroad, and it had an effect that was quite dark in the culture, I think. And so this movie kind of establishes that with great performances, really kind of a understated, not too over the top performances. Like it's not like an overly dramatic, melodramatic movie. It is subtle with how it portrays basically post traumatic stress, and how it affects these people in this town. It is a small town people, steel workers, very a tightly knit but crucial kind of grouping of friends. In particular, Michael, played by Robert De Niro, and who is the deer hunter of the Deer Hunter, and Nick, played by Christopher Walken. Um, and I know one of the sort of gripes with the movie is that the beginning is fairly slow, which it sort of is. But the thing is, it does establish the characters, and it does establish that crucial bond that all the characters have together. Because basically, I mean, it is mainly about Nick and Michael, and sort of like the love triangle that sort of kind of emerges between the Meryl Streep character. But the thing is, they have their group of friends. There's other people in their circle of friends, but it's mainly about the two of them. And it starts with the wedding. Of course, their friends getting married, and basically, you kind of find out along the way that uh, they're signing up for Vietnam because they want to support their friend. He's getting married. He's probably gonna have a baby on the way, and they want to be there for him. So it's admirable in that respect. But they weren't quite expecting everything to fall apart the way that it unfortunately does in the narrative of this film. So it does take its time. I think it makes the film all the more powerful because of that. Because you do see these two sides of the film. So you have before Vietnam, you have a small section of the film that is during Vietnam, and then the after effect, which is the larger portion of the movie, and then the most emotionally hard hitting section of the film. Definitely in the middle is the infamous. The Russian roulette scene, basically, which is an outstanding scene and still very tense. Like the first time I watched it, I was like on the edge of my seat. Even when I watch it now, it's really hard to watch. But at the same time, their escape from the internment camp, the prisoner of war camp, is so well done and so convincing. Because you kind of think like the Michael character, since he is the leader of the group, so to speak. He does have a certain sensibility and set of skills in his deer hunting, and he has a sense of honor about it. And it's one shot, that's all. Nothing else. You're cheating yourself and the deer if you have to do it in more than just one shot. And so that applies to pretty much the whole symbolism of the Russian roulette as well, because all it takes is this one shot. That's kind of the whole point of war in general. All it takes is one shot to just completely obliterate everything, obliterate families, friendships, everything like that. Because he has a certain set of skills, he is able to, get them out of there. But of course, Nick stays back. He gets lost along the way. While Nick and I forget the other character's name. I forget. Sorry, but the other friend's name, the one who's getting married, they get back home. But meanwhile, Nick is still in Vietnam, and he's kind of just shell shocked. Basically, he's become a shell of himself. Basically, he's not quite all there anymore. He's too traumatized by the experiences because a lot of what has occurred we haven't seen on screen. So he's kind of like doing these underground Russian roulette tournaments, sort of, and it's quite morbid. But basically, I mean, the point of the movie is how the home life has been affected and how they feel that there is a missing piece to them, and particularly Michael, whose friend is missing, and the group of friends is fine, but it's not the same without him. So it is about the powerful bonds of friendship, and the lengths that someone like Michael would go to try and get his friend back and try to preserve that friendship, as fruitless as an endeavor as it increasingly seems to feel like to him, basically. I mean, on the whole, it's a very effective movie. Though it's a 3-hour movie, so it definitely runs a little bit slower than your average movie. It's not an action film; it is more about human drama. But that's the power of the film, I think. It just wouldn't have worked without the great acting. De Niro, of course, he's always great. He's always kind of a method actor, so we really do feel like he's not playing Robert De Niro. He is very much this character. Meryl Streep actually as well is very good in one of her, again, it's one of her earlier roles. This film actually has the distinction of the very first film for which she was nominated for an Oscar, which is kind of cool. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and of course Christopher Walken won for Best Supporting Actor, and very much deservingly so. This is definitely, I mean, Christopher Walken. He's everybody loves Christopher Walken, but we kind of have this ideal of him that he's kind of a zanier, goofier, quirkier kind of actor, sort of. But here, I think he reaches into some kind of very dark recess of his soul and conjures up a performance that's pretty scarring, I think. And we haven't really seen something quite like this from him ever again. So I think maybe it took something out of him that he decided to kind of be a little goofier from this point forward. But definitely the Oscar that he earned for it is a monument to his immense acting talents. I mean, he's absolutely fantastic in this movie and in general. So the movie also won Best Picture, Best Director, Cimino. Definitely the high point of Cimino's career. Unfortunately, he didn't have too much success after this. Of course, he did Heaven's Gate, which was, pretty much his name is a punchline now. But the fact that he was able to pull off such a sincere and moving and emotionally complex story about the aftermath of the Vietnam War affecting a small, tightly knit group of friends in a small town in America really encapsulates that feeling at that time. Post Vietnam aftermath and post traumatic stress and the effects that it has. It's a very powerful film. It's a great film. Definitely not something that's going to put you in a great mood to watch it, but it's absolutely superb. Definitely a movie that I'll always revisit. Not just for the powerful acting, but for the very impactful story, which I think is just very well done, very well deserving of the Oscars. That year was kind of like sort of like a close race between Deer Hunter and Midnight Express. I feel Deer Hunter should have won the award. So a lot of times, people are like, this movie should have won. Why did this movie win? But I think this is the case where the right movie won, in my opinion. So that's pretty much my review of The Deer Hunter. This is an absolute classic. Definitely something that If you haven't, you should definitely check it out. It's a great American epic, great story of the repercussions of the Vietnam War, and fantastic acting all around. So, absolute classic, monumental film. I love it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.